record.
All right, well said. All right, well, thank you everybody for coming on tonight. We're excited for another session of Be Ready Phoenix, a business readiness and training program for Black-owned businesses in the Valley. We've been really blessed and fortunate to hear from and learn from experts all throughout the Valley with various backgrounds and expertise and skill sets. And so we are just thankful for all that we've been learning throughout this program and for the program itself, the relationships and networking that has transpired. We do have another networking mixer coming up, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But without delaying it, we want to introduce our guests and allow them to come with their presentation. So we have Geoffrey Nail and Tylene Henry, who will be talking to us about succession planning and the importance of succession planning in our business, something that is of critical importance that is probably goes understated and misunderstood often. And so we're excited for everything that they're going to bring. Feel free to throw your questions in the chat as usual. We'll also have some time for questions at the end. And depending on how the flow of the night is going, as usual, we'll take a quick break around the 7:30 hour, just depending on how the flow is going, and then we'll wrap up. So before we get started, any questions, any technical issues, everybody able to hear and see clearly and everything like that? I take that as a yes, and so we'll go ahead and get started. So thank you both again for your time tonight, and thank everybody for coming on.
Well, thank you. We appreciate the opportunity to be here to speak to you all. We wanted to kind of just take some time and make this as intimate as possible in terms of the content and the conversation. We don't want to be talking at you. We don't want to give you content or information that's not relevant to your current business, wherever that may be right now. So we kind of want to start off by kind of getting to know everybody here with an icebreaker. So if we want to kind of start off and go around and act like we're in the same room here, and share, your name, your product or service or your business idea, wherever you are, and what you're currently listening to. Whether it be audiobooks, podcasts. I mean, like, even if it's not that, and you got some music that's motivating you, please share that. So who wants to begin?
So I'll go first. I'm Tylene Henry, and I am a financial services professional. My personal mission and vision is to alleviate socioeconomic disparity. And most people think that's just about money, but truly, I know that it's a lack of equitable access to ideas, resources, and relationships. So everything that I do personally, professionally, and civically is in alignment with that definite purpose. And what I'm reading right now is, or listening to Og Mandino, The Greatest Salesman. Really great. Not a very long book, but a very great book with some great, affirmations and things to think about that keep us focused, especially as entrepreneurs and business owners. It's important that we stay focused in on, growing our businesses and being present in our family lives and doing everything we need to have a well-rounded life, and not being focused on the things that may not be going well. So I found that to be very helpful. And I know that was more than 30 seconds, but that's what I got to say. Glad to be here. So I'm just gonna tap the next person in. So Miss Jacqueline Ellis.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Tylene. My company name is JET Consulting Services, and right now I do grant writing, but I also assist individuals and small groups who either want to start a small business or a nonprofit. And in that, I help them just do their paperwork processing to get all the licensings and certifications they need to get started. Okay. Tylene, I've read that book. It's a great book. I read it. The book I'm currently reading now, or just literally started reading, is called Atomic Habits. And the goal of the book is to, just ensure that the habits that we are developing, are positive and help us get the things done that we need to do. And it's just around mindset about developing positive habits.
Awesome.
Okay, so if I'm to choose next, I'm going to go to Jermaine.
Sorry, my dog just went crazy. As soon as you said my name, he just started barking. Okay, sorry about that. Hello, everyone. My name is Jermaine Shoulders. I am the owner and CEO of Mosaic Entertainment Group, which is a media company. I write and direct television and film and stage plays. So that's my business. What I'm currently reading right now, I just finished writing actually a project, so I had to put a book down in order to complete the project. But the book I was reading was called Woke Doesn't Mean Broke, by Billy Carson. Yeah, you want to check that one out. It's about 800 pages, but it's chock full of its mindset as well. He goes into mindset big time, Jacqueline. So that's what it's about. So that's me. Jen Lambert.
Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Jen. Jackie is actually my sister. I am in financial services. I am a financial advisor with Primerica Financial Services, soon to open my own office the beginning of next year. And I actually just finished reading When Crisis Strikes because I got a couple of kids with a couple of things. And I needed to just reset the brain a little bit and handle things differently from a more positive perspective. So it's been great. So that's me in a nutshell. That's it. If I am to pick the next person, I am going to pick Miss Stacy. That's who I'm picking.
Hi, everybody. My name is Stacy Best. I am the Stacy Best Nervous. Sorry. I see your face, Ali. I am the owner of Brownstone Spa. So it is, I'm an esthetician, so I offer facials and body treatments, specifically catered to skin of color. And I have had my business for about 3.5 years, but January of this year, I left my 14-year tenure at a financial services company to do that full time. So right now I'm just doing all the things at once, which is exciting and liberating and hard work, but nothing that I am scared of. So it's, again, just really exciting. As far as books, I'm all over the place. I have 2 girls, you can probably hear them. So I didn't hear all the instructions right now, but it's really hard for me to actually pick up like a lot of the, I guess, I don't really want to call them like self-help or a lot of the, one second, a lot of the business books, just because for 14 years I had to read those and I didn't really enjoy them, but I do like reading different articles and different things that are important and researching things as I need them. So right now I'm doing a lot of different like health type of books, things about just like natural healing, natural beauty, just staying up to speed when it comes to skincare and what with my business. I think I heard something about music. I love all different kinds of music. So just whatever kind of keeps me, I guess, entertained at that time. So thank you. Hold on, I'm still on the video.
All right, we've got Brother Tremikas. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are.
Perfect.
My name is Brother Tremikas. I am the chair of the Phoenix Local Organizing Committee for Justice, the L.O.C. That's the organization that's putting this together, right? Our focus is on independence. It's on self-reliance. We believe our people have the skill, the knowledge, the know-how, and the resources to do whatever we need to do for ourselves. So we push that. That is our agenda. We do that through several different areas. One is economic development, which we're witnessing part of that. The way we do that here on this line, we do agriculture, arts and culture. The list just goes on and on of the work that we do. So that's been my life work, at least for the last 20 some odd years, and specifically with the Phoenix L.O.C. For the last 6 years. Books that I'm reading right now, I am currently reading a book called Self-Improvement, the Basis for Community Development. It is a study guide written by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So I study that quite a bit. That's what I'm reading right now. What music do I listen to? My wife is a musician, an artist, performer, and she's always making music. So the music I'm listening to is hers. And that's it. I think the only person did you want me to call on Brother Ali? Is he part of this?
Yes.
Okay, Brother Ali.
Maria didn't go either, just for the record.
You want me? Okay, go ahead, Ali. I'll go last.
Okay, all right. Brother Ali, Grassroots Bookstore and Stronghold Hat Store are my businesses. And I listen to a lot of interviews with the ancestors and speeches and stuff like that. I recently listened to an interview with C.L.R. James, and it inspired me to start reading the Black Jacobins about the Haitian Revolution. So that's what I'm reading right now and what I'm listening to. Saria, you up.
All right. So I own a business called Orchestrating Your Success. It is a project management consulting business. And I am reading, well, I've already read this book called Building a Story Brand. It's by Donald Miller, and it's clarifying your message so customers will listen. So I'm in the process of redoing my website and redoing my branding based off of this book. And one of the things he says in this book is, it's not about you, it's about your customer. And does your message match that you're talking to your customer and not telling them all about what you did, because it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. So it's been a very good book. If you had a chance to read it, it's a very easy read. It took me 2 days to read it. So it's really helped me to start looking at things from the customer's perspective and not from my perspective. So there you go.
Excellent. Did we get everybody except for Jeff?
Okay. Yeah, I guess I'll round it out here. And we got the spinners from Jermaine he's listening to. And Jacqueline said she forgot to mention music. Right now she's listening to a little Beethoven. All right. So Geoffrey Nail, I'm also a financial professional here in sunny Arizona. My goal out here is to increase knowledge. And I say that I'm kind of different from a lot of financial advisors because like I look at it from not to say that it's different, but I look at it from a comprehensive standpoint in terms of like even things that are like not even directly related to money, so I'm all about like just increasing knowledge in terms of like health, wealth. You can't have a well-rounded individual if you just have all the money in the world, as an example, and you don't have your health or you don't have your happiness, so on and so forth. So I just look to kind of get to know people so that I can, try to enhance, what some of the great things that you're already doing, provide a nugget here or there that maybe you can implement right now and plant some seeds for the future. What I'm listening to right now, I listen to a podcast called Impact Theory. I've been listening to that for about 2 years, and it's always some great interviews with different people from completely different walks of life. I mean, from monks to people who have broken out of incarceration, in terms of just knowledge and literal incarceration too. And outside of the podcast Impact Theory, I'm listening to a book, Free to Focus, right now. And it's all about doing more with less, giving yourself the margin in your life to not be like busy, and allow your creative juices to flow and new ideas to emerge. And just being okay with not doing anything, because like statistically speaking, we get our best work in 5 hours, as opposed to like working 8, 10, 12, and that's something that we fall victim to being entrepreneurs. A lot of times we burn the candle at both ends, myself included, so I need every reminder I can get to, remind myself why I chose this route. So I think we've completed our intros there.
Yeah. Awesome.
So one thing that we want to kind of encourage through this connection here with you all today is the power of networking. And it seems like a lot of you all know each other at least to some degree, but we want to just encourage us to get to know one another a little bit more deeply, dive beneath the surface. And I wanted to share like a networking story that I have out here. I moved to Arizona in 2014, started out of like, not necessarily in a warm market. I'm building from scratch, starting a business and moving to a new location in pretty much the same year. And I went to all the chamber events and the different like networking groups around town, and it was a lot of time burning that candle at both ends. And I decided that I wanted to kind of go a different route and go on the nonprofit route, and it led me to be on the executive board for a few nonprofits out here, and one of those Big Brothers Big Sisters. So I've been a big brother for 6 years now. I was about to say 5. We lose a year with 2020, but 6 years. And I also was the board president for Safe Kids of Maricopa County. And those two interactions with these volunteer opportunities, collaborating indirectly, led me to try to get into a leadership development class with ASU. And I'm not sure if anybody's familiar with it, but it's called the Lodestar American Express Nonprofit Leadership Development Class. It's been around for about, I think, 12 or 13 years. But being that I was the president with Safe Kids of Maricopa County, I encouraged them to sponsor me to take this leadership class, because I had done leadership in the corporate world, but not in the nonprofit world. So short story longer, they said, yeah, let's do it. Sounds good. We'll write the check if you can get approved for this program. So I go to the mixer and I meet the one of the leaders of that program, and she's best friends with the CEO of Big Brothers Big Sisters. And so like we get to talking, and she's like, yeah, well, my good friend works at Big Brothers Big Sisters. It turns out she's the CEO. We talk more. She encourages me to get in the program. I go back to the CEO of Big Brothers and Sisters. I tell her about it. She's like, hey, sounds good. If you decide to take it, it's a great program. I actually created it 10 years ago, and I'll write your letter of recommendation. And so short story longer, she wrote my letter of recommendation. The one nonprofit sponsored me to take the class. Class was fantastic. I networked with 35 different nonprofit leaders, got curriculum around emotional intelligence and personal development and public speaking, a lot of different great will enhance any business. And it just goes to show you how powerful networking can be. And sometimes we get skewed in terms of our understanding of exactly how it works. We get caught up with just passing out business cards like Pokemon cards or something, and we don't necessarily cultivate those relationships and get to know one another. Happy birthday, happy anniversary, haven't talked to you in a while, let's grab coffee, let's grab lunch. What do you need right now? Not just giving business and buying services and products, but like actually like helping develop one another and putting people in the right place at the right time. So that's my short
Ideas,
story.
resources, and relationships.
Yeah. So that's my short story to encourage us to like get beneath the surface and really develop these relationships beyond, you know, just patronizing one another, you know, encouraging, motivating, and enhancing.
Awesome. And we want to encourage everyone, especially if you're someplace stationary, you have a pad and a pen. We really want this to be a working session. You know, as business owners ourselves, we understand the importance and the value of our time. And we want to be moving forward and progressing at all times, especially if you're not, you know, giving your family 100% of your attention at this moment. If you're going to be working on your business or getting some resources for your business, we want to make sure that it's a productive meeting. So we encourage you to be engaged. You know, this is really going to be driven by your interest. And so one of the things that we're very interested to know is, you know, I know that some of you probably may have had multiple businesses. This may be your first time in business. And so can you tell us in the chat how many years you've been in business? I know that Miss Stacy, she's been in business for 3.5 years. But if you can tell us in the chat how many years you've been in business. And I forgot to mention what I was listening to, and I've been listening to Michael Jackson in the older stuff like Jackson 5 things. So that's what I've been listening to. 5 years, awesome, awesome. Awesome. This is amazing. 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. And so what they say, you know, who's they, but, you know, they say that if you are a business, and I hope that you guys can help me this evening, because one of the things that I picked up in a session that I did a couple of weeks ago is a lot of times we refer to ourselves as small businesses. And, you know, we talk about the power of our words. And so I've been trying to use growing businesses as a growing business as opposed to small business. So growing business. So if you hear me say small business, you know, use one of your reactions to say, hey, you know, that's not it. So, all right. So that's awesome that we've got people that we're all, you know, kind of within that first 5-year period of business. And one of the things that's going to be critically important, and we say this, all of our most successful clients have 3 things in common. Number one, they're organized. So they have a good idea. They know what's going on. They understand what's coming in and going out. So your business finances and your personal finances, obviously you don't want to commingle them, but it's very good to be organized. And sometimes when you're a sole proprietor or you're a growing business, you may not have an accountant on staff. You may not have a branding person. You may be doing all of these things yourself. So being organized and having time that you're actually going to work on your business. So scheduling time that you can work on your business, a part of that time being keeping organized with what's coming in and what's going out, as well as your business goals. And we're going to share some resources on that as we continue to move forward. So number one characteristic of our most successful clients is that they're organized. The number 2 characteristic of our most successful clients is that they are educated, meaning they are empowered with information. So it's great to have a whole lot of information. And education doesn't mean, you know, I've got a undergraduate degree or certificate in this or that. It's really going to be impactful if you apply the information that you know, right? So they're empowered with information that's relevant to what they need to know, right? So it's great to have a bunch of information, but if it's not helping you, then it's not beneficial. So they are empowered because they're educated with information that's relevant to their situation and their goals, which they are aware of because they're organized and they've documented those goals. And then the third characteristics of our most successful client is they take action, meaning they're going to do something differently than what they're currently doing so that they can get some results that they have not yet gotten. So those are the 3 things: organized, empowered with education and information that's relevant to their situation, and then taking action on that information. And so, as we said, this is going to be a working session. So hopefully everybody has a pen or a paper. And so one of the things that we really would like to know, if there's one thing that you knew that you had control over as it pertains to your business operations, what would it be? So if there was one thing that you could have control over, because oftentimes we can't control what our clients or customers want to buy, or their timeline, or, you know, whether or not they're going to be responsible. But if there was one thing you could control about your operations, you know, because much of entrepreneurship and business ownership, you know, there's a lot of fluctuation, you know, ebbs and flows, right? Even like the money, we say it's like the tide. It comes in and it goes out, but you got to know that it's going to be coming in. So if there was one thing that you could control about your business operations, one thing that you would have absolute control over, what would that be? And I'm just going to check in the chat and see if we have anything come through. And if you want to just think about that, if you don't know right now, your profits, okay. That's a good one. Money tide, consistent contracts, distribution. Excellent. Awesome. So we're gonna take note of these items and make sure that we keep track of those as we continue to move through. Our conversation here. And so one thing that to keep in mind as we get ready to get into the succession planning presentation is clarity around what your goals are. So that's that organized component. Oftentimes as business owners, especially growing business owners, we may have many talents in many ways that we can earn income, but really what is in alignment with our plan and where we see our business being. And this clarity is so important because as we begin to talk about succession planning, we have to be really clear about, you know, where we want our business to go. Do we want to be in it every single day for the rest of our lives? Do we want to be in a position where we can delegate particular tasks or responsibilities? But being really clear about where we desire for our business to be, you know, in the next 3 months, in the next 3 years, in the next 10 years, the next 20 years. So getting really clear on where we see our business to be in the future. And it's okay if we only know what we want, where we see things by the end of the year or the next, you know, 2 years or 5 years. Better for us to be clear on a short-term goal than to not have clarity at all and be all over the place, because that's going to be necessary to remain being organized, as well as make sure you're getting information that's relevant to your current situation so that you can take the proper action to make sure your business can grow and scale. So those things are significantly important. And before I pass it over to Jeff, also want to make it really clear, as we talked about networking and relationships as we got started, there are going to be times where we may have another priority in our business. It could be inventory, it could be some marketing, but relationships are critically important because we can sometimes barter amongst other business owners and share our skills and expertise. Should I spend, 10 hours trying to come up with some branding or whatever, if I have a colleague that I know knows what they're doing and they can, do that particular element for me? And really more so for me has been like the bookkeeping. And so I'm not really, I don't want to do bookkeeping. I don't want to do that. And so I have people in my network that I trust that they do that, and I can rely on them for templates and best practices. And so that's another reason why relationships can be critically important, because as you're growing your business, you may not be able to go out and hire KPMG or, Ernst & Young to come in and do your accounting practices, but we need that to be bankable in a lot of situations. And so leveraging relationships, building trust with people, that's the way you're able to identify, folks that can support you in building a sustainable business. So without further ado, does anybody have any questions about anything that we have talked about or shared up until this point? Okay, awesome. All right, so we about to just get right into it.
All right. So, hey, team, we're not tax advisors. We're not authorized to give tax or legal advice. So, this is that fun slide that just lets you see this little disclosure, let you take that in. Can go to the next one here.
Yeah.
All right. So what is financial well-being? What is that? And as we mentioned, you know, we're not really tied to like going like point by point through this presentation as much as we are like making sure that the content resonates with you and resonates, you know, directly with your individual businesses, your needs, and your questions. So, you know, if there's a question that like pops out that's from one of these slides and we want to, you know, dive deeper into that, then we're happy to do so. But financial well-being is typically, you know, having control over your day-to-day, month-to-month finances, you know, so running that P&L, like whether it be on your business or even your household, to make sure that, you know, you understand the delta between your income and expenses, your revenue, and hopefully that end number is black and not red. Having the capacity to absorb financial shock. So, I mean, like everybody's gotten it firsthand, you know, what financial shock can look like. A lot of financial advisors and the likes have been talking about like these unforeseen circumstances that could happen. And 2020 hit and everybody got a, you know, an example of what our true control of things really looks like at times. And then being on track to meet financial goals, you know, whether that be from a revenue standpoint, a savings standpoint, succession planning, you know, just having some goals in place so that we know where we're shooting for. And then lastly, having the financial freedom to make choices that allow one to enjoy life. And that's why we choose to be entrepreneurs, because, you know, it's not necessarily fun up front to get started, but we're putting the pieces in place to change that for our future selves and for potentially you know, the next generation.
And you know, when I look at these, I think of peace of mind. And so, you know, you can operate at such a greater or higher level when you have peace of mind around, you know, the financial well-being of your family, and, you know, just having that confidence and knowing that there are some things that we may not have control over, but we have done our due diligence to take care of the things that we can control and influence.
So this is a slide that kind of you know, shocks us, puts us deer in the headlights. But you know, why do businesses fail after the first generation? So fact, businesses have a difficult time surviving through multiple generations, and we have some percentages here to show you that success percentage. So to the second generation is 30% success. You know, dropping down to 12 for the third generation, and you know, even lower for the fourth generation. This kind of just speaks to itself, but or speaks for itself.
Sorry. I was going to say, does anybody have any ideas on why businesses have such a difficult time surviving through multiple generations? Any takers? Either put it in the chat or come off mute.
I would say that, my opinion is that maybe the next generation doesn't have the same level of passion or commitment to the business sometimes.
That's absolutely one of the reasons. That's absolutely one of the top reasons. Anybody else?
We got lack of planning, lack of passion, lack of vision from Jermaine.
Yeah, I think too. I mean, because I've seen this with a couple of my clients that where they've passed to the next generation, and it's all of these, and plus they didn't really prepare the person to the successor to be ready for all of this. You know, they just kind of just passed the torch, and it just didn't work out well in their favor. I know a company that's going under right now because of that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We see it oftentimes. You know, one, you may have someone who that's their baby and they've grown it. And so there's a lot of things that they know about running the business, that, you know, it may take 2 or 3 people to do what it is that they do. That's one thing that goes along with that lack of planning. You know, and then sometimes people have a hard time letting go. You know, they've got to micromanage everything until the point at which they're bedridden or something crazy like that. And, you know, now someone has not been brought up to speed. And so, you know, that can be a situation. And then you have some people who they're like, oh, I'm building this for my, you know, daughter or my son, or my kids are going to take this over. And the kids are like, they have no interest whatsoever in whatever that business is. So I'm sorry for popping in there like that, Jeff, but that I just always think that this is very telling, that it's very difficult for businesses to make it through to a 4th generation. And everything that everyone has said is very much so the top reasons why, but we know that generally, but why is it's still the case? It's still quite common. So.
No, I appreciate the interruption, because I mean, like, it's super valuable. And, you know, the reason why a lot of us get in this business is to create you know, a valuable future. And, you know, that involves being able to pass this down, you know, as many generations as possible. I mean, like, that's the whole reason why we're willing to risk, you know, the first like 5 to 10 years of, you know, living below our means, and, you know, living super lean. Leaner than, I mean, like, you're lean without even the N at the end of the word, you know, at points in life. So, and no wrong answers. I mean, like, great answers that you all have given. 83% of people have no written succession plan. So, you know, it's just like an individual, you know, without a will, a family without a will or an estate plan. You know, when you don't have things written down, you leave things up to interpretation, and interpretation is the you know, that's like the leaky pipe. You know, that can create so much calamity in our businesses and in our lives when folks have good intentions and they're just like, oh yeah, you know, Tylene would have wanted it this way, you know, and you know, everybody like wants to speak for you in a way in which, you know, it kind of benefits them and benefits, you know, those that are still around, but it's not necessarily keeping some of those things that were important to you at the surface. So additionally, not having a buy-sell agreement. So, you know, if Jacqueline, if you're in business with me and, like, you know, we're amazing business partners, and all of a sudden something happens to me and now you're dealing with my spouse, you know, and my spouse doesn't have the same mission and vision, you know, you all might not have the you know, the same camaraderie, whatever the case may be. A buy-sell agreement can kind of mitigate that and allow the business to go on as designed without bringing in a new mind or, you know, a different perspective and things of that nature. And then lastly, just isn't top of mind. You know, we for whatever reason, there's no succession planning at all, 49%, where, you know, maybe you thought it cost too much. Maybe you thought that your business wasn't ready for that, whatever the case.
Absolutely. So many people say, oh, you know, my business is growing. I don't need a succession plan yet. But if you have clients, you know, and it doesn't necessarily have to be super, you know, detailed, but what's the plan? Like if you have people that are relying on you for your services, your products or whatever, if you know, are not in service or you're out of commission for an extended period of time, do you have another colleague that provides a similar service that, you know, that you trust, that can be able to make sure that their business can, you know, whatever services you're providing might be necessary for someone else's business or whatever it may be. So just starting with some sort of contingency plan and then be building from there. It's just one step at a time. Just like everyone on this line has been in business for at least a year, you know, 2 years, 3 years, you know that it didn't happen overnight. It was one step at a time. So the same way you built your business is going to be the same way you build your succession plan. Don't get overwhelmed. You just start off with being real clear about what you want to have happen, and then begin to put pieces in place so that what you want to have happen can happen. So.
And I kind of touched on one excuse in terms of like maybe your business isn't ready for it, or maybe you think it's too expensive. But here are some other common excuses. I don't feel like I need to think about that just yet. I'm too busy with the day-to-day management of the business. I don't have time. So the old cliche, I can't see the forest through the trees. I don't have enough money to put towards addressing these issues. I would not know where to go to get help. Hopefully, we can provide some resources during this conversation here today. And, it's uncomfortable. It's an uncomfortable conversation. We're talking about, potential, death. We're talking about disability. I kind of look at it like I call it the Clark Kent mentality or Superman mentality, but, the odds of becoming disabled in a lifetime is 1 in 20 in terms of, today's 20-year-olds. And a lot of us look at these statistics like 1 in 4, or it's like, well, I'm not going to be that 1 in 4, and we make excuses not to even go down the path of getting the information. It's one thing to decide that you may not want to invest in it, but I would encourage everyone to at least get the information so that you can make a educated decision.
Great moment to pop in here. If you do have a notepad and you are taking some notes or writing down some things that are coming to mind as we're having this conversation, write down why, if you don't have a succession plan, write down why you don't have a succession plan. Doesn't have to be a dissertation, but take some notes, because the first way to get towards where we're going is to figure it in our way, right? And sometimes it's just a limiting belief, like, oh, my business not big enough, or oh, I don't have time, or whatever those things are. And that's if you don't have a succession plan. So if you can write down just some notes on why you don't have a succession plan. All right.
And the other statistic is 1 in 3 business owners say that they'll take necessary action when it's time to exit the business. And again, even putting aside like the risk of death and disability and everything that can happen in between, it's just too late in terms of having these plans in place. Because as an example with the buy-sell agreement, I've come across a lot of business owners that have buy-sell agreements, and that there's not really any method to fund the buy-sell agreement. So you have the document on file, but if something were to happen, the money isn't there to actually uphold the contract. And I see we had something in the chat. Let me just make sure. Okay, Jacqueline, you got your succession plan going. I like it. I like it. All right.
Love it. And because we're having this conversation, everybody's starting today. Because just thinking about it and taking some notes is the first step. So
for sure. Awareness is so key to a lot of our planning. All right. Let's see. So these are some things that folks say that keep them up at night. Like, of course, our income. Our income keeps us up at night. Our ability to save keeps us up at night. Having emergency funds and revenue to generate. Keeping the payroll going and keeping the lights on and so on and so forth. And then, those other issues like paying off debt, maybe we've got some student loans, a home loan, credit cards, what have you. And then lastly, retirement, that's honestly, your most important bill collector almost. You want to create a plan where, you can, slow down at the very least, but stop if that's your desire as well. Maybe you don't necessarily want to stop, but maybe you only want to work a few hours a week, or, definitely not keeping up like 80 hours in a week, or, more than that, like what we were talking about even in our icebreaker in terms of the hours that we work.
Free break comes down to freedom of choice, right?
For sure. So what is succession planning? We have this this visual here because as we mentioned, awareness, and we can talk about it, but the process of developing a written plan. So we have these ideas, but put them on paper. It doesn't take much to get the ball rolling. At the very least, going through the motions, writing it, typing up a document, getting it notarized at your bank. So you know what things look like and what things can look like, and then revisiting that. So the process of developing a written plan for the day a business owner decides or is forced to step down from their leadership role or ownership in the business due to a voluntary or involuntary departure. So I look at it, just keeping your options open, whatever the reason, you want to make sure as much as possible that this remains a voluntary in some capacity.
Right. And that voluntary or involuntary is so important, because oftentimes we talk to growing businesses and they say, well, I'm never going to retire. I love what I'm doing. That's why I started my business. Right. But we also have to think of the perspective of, most of us take a lot of pride in the quality of service that we provide and the quality of products that we are creating. And when we take pride in that, we've built something and we want to make sure that it's able to continue on. And so no one wants to think about, but none of us are going to make it out of here alive. That's what my dad always says. But that's true. Like, we don't live forever. And I mean, I guess everybody has their own thoughts on whatever, but we don't live forever. And so we have to just kind of acknowledge and accept that at some point in time, we may not be able to continue in our businesses at the same capacity or in the same role. And if what we've built is truly valuable to us, then we must protect it. And the only way we can protect it is by developing a written plan. And, and that adds to the value, and we'll get to that later, but that adds to the value. When we talk about being bankable and understanding the value of your business, when you have a written plan, let's say you've got a product or service and someone's approaching you with a franchise opportunity, or, there's a big distribution opportunity, they're going to want to know, well, what's the succession plan? What happens if, something happens to you? How do we know that you're going to be able to fulfill, or your business is going to be able to fulfill whatever commitments that you're making? And so these are things that not only can give you some peace of mind, but can also add to the value of your business by having a written plan.
And I would add to that also, like every day in your business is practice at delegating also. So we mentioned during the icebreaker and during our initial conversations about the ability for businesses to pass from generation to generation, and passion that's missing sometimes. Your ability to delegate and building that muscle, growing that muscle over time will help to make this process a little bit more seamless also.
Absolutely. And it's critically important because, if half of America is living paycheck to paycheck, you have to imagine, as growing businesses, without knowing that, what that next paycheck is going to be, we've got to protect our investment of time and energy in intellectual property. If 70% of folks don't have enough in emergency savings, and in most situations, that's 3 to 6 months of your living expenses. You think about being a business owner and having those ebbs and flows. So everything that we can do to create a very solid foundation for our business is going to put us in a better position. If we know that even folks who are working someplace that have a 401k set up or some type of retirement plan at work, if we know that even those folks aren't all participating, what are we doing as growing businesses? And then looking at how long, some will be paying to either pay off their student loan debt, some people trying to pay off their kids' student loan debt. So business ownership and building a business is truly an opportunity to create wealth within our communities and within our families. And that's why this conversation is so critically important. And it's important that we're being intentional about, the questions that we're asking, the conversation that we're having, because again, this is a working session, because everyone is going to have their own desire about what they want for their business. And again, the beginning and initial steps are getting organized and clear about what you want to have happen and what's important to you.
All right. So what goes into a succession plan? This is a good time to kind of understand like what some of these words and phrases mean. So again, we can make it mean something, kind of like the conversation around a buy-sell agreement being funded. So in terms of your goals, identify what you want to get out of the business when you retire. That sounds like great on paper, but what does that mean? Like, what type of life and retirement do you want to live? Like, how much income do you need on a monthly basis, an annual basis, to make sure that all the bills are paid and you have the money to be you on a regular basis? A gentleman by the name of Tom Hegna talks about how the 3 stages of retirement, and it's the go-go phase. Like when you first retire, it's just like, oh yeah, I want to go on trips. I want to go here. I want to do this. I want to do that. And then it slows down at some point, because you don't have as much energy, like you feel like you've accomplished enough, you've enjoyed, you may not take as many trips, but you still take a few. And then like as our health kind of like, gets a little bit slower and whatnot, we get into the slow go and then the no go, so typically you're spending, potentially more money at the inception, and your spending slows down as you go from those 3 stages of retirement. So that's what you want to think about in terms of your goals. Your successors, of course, choose who will be taking over for you, outline the plan to ensure they are properly prepared. You don't want to set anybody up for failure. Ownership, if the company has if the company will have multiple owners in the future, specify the ownership roles and percentages. Again, you want to leave little to interpretation. The more that, people can read without interpreting, the better for you in terms of being able to manage that business even when you're not necessarily present. Management, define steps you need to keep vital, non-owner management in place so that you can stay on board through the transition and beyond if that's the goal. And then transfer, determine when and how the transition will take place and what needs to happen leading up to that time. As much as you can game plan, we all know the things we don't have control, but the better the plan that we have in place, the easier it is to bob and weave and be flexible. And lastly, finance. Identify where the funds will come from to buy you out. So calculate what taxes will be due and what will be in effect on the personal estate plan. So again, you want to make sure that those documents, mean something, that you saved in the proper way, but also carved off those chunks and put them into the right type of accounts that are going to help you with distribution.
Absolutely. And if you haven't already, these are 6 great things to write down, and begin as things come to your mind, jot those notes down. I think many of us know as business owners, and I know most of us are reading something, whether it's personal or professional, but we know that when we write things down, their ability to come into fruition are greatly increased as a result of having it written down. And so you may not know exactly what you want to have happen in each of these areas as of yet, but just taking note of them is going to help you to get closer to that. And you may already have some ideas, but maybe you haven't written it down yet. And so even if you're just taking some notes for later that you'll go back to and elaborate on. Another thing to note about this is that sometimes people think that whoever is going to be taking over their business necessarily has to be the owner. And that's not the case. So sometimes parents feel like they've got to hand it over to their kids because they want them to benefit financially, from what they've built. But really and truly, when we begin to document our goals and the processes, and we make sure that we are building our business in a sustainable way, not just working in the business, but also working on it, we find that there are options that maybe we have somebody else that's running the business, but a portion of those profits and or, you know, the ownership still remains with the family. And so there's options there, but until we really begin to kind of write down what we want to have happen, and not put in mind what we think has to have happen, but just really write down what you want in each of those areas. Don't think about what you think is possible, but write down what you want. And you'll be surprised sometimes that you will begin to identify that that what you want is possible, with some planning and, you know, making sure that you've got the information you need to make those informed decisions. Anything else on this side, Jeff?
No, any questions or comments to this point? Kind of just take a pause just to let anybody jump in if you were playing double dutch. All right.
I wish my music was working, because usually we have some music that I'll pop on here and there. All right.
All right. So we've got a few golden rules of succession planning here. So we're going to go through a few of these here. So first, you must know all the options for exiting your business, the pros and cons of each. Of course, I make a T-chart for a lot of things. When I'm putting things together, helps me out. You may have a strong desire to transition the business to a family member, but before settling on the course of action, take a look at available strategies so you can truly make an informed decision. You know, just because you know, that family member, friend, you know, is, you know, you like them, they might not have a passion to the point of the audience earlier in terms of taking over that business. So you want to understand what your options are. Second, you must know the value of the business and have that in writing as well. A gentleman by the name of Warren Buffett, you might know him. He says business valuation is at the heart of investing and risk management, and without it, you are blind. So it's also the foundation for a good succession, retirement, and estate plan. You can't do any of those things properly without knowing your business, what your business is worth. Third, select and prepare the right successor and make everyone aware of who that person is. You can create the most perfectly documented succession plan, but if the right people are not in place to continue running the business when you're gone, it will fail. So successor development is a rigorous process that must begin many years before the business will ever change hands. And next, all agreements must be in writing, funded properly in accordance with the value of the business. And finally, all succession plans must be reviewed periodically. You know, you can't, it's, I always use this corny visual, but, you know, the financial industry is not as seen on TV turkey roaster. We can't set it and forget it and, you know, expect that it's going to come out like all delectable and tasty.
This is true. This is very true. Yeah. And I'll also add, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you got it.
I was going to also add that, you know, as we're early, as we may be having growing business and early in those stages, you know, you may not have the answers to all of these. You may not be necessarily ready to take action on every single one of these items, but the things that we can do to take steps are just in our day-to-day operations, documenting what you do. Documenting what you do. You know, when you meet somebody new, what do you do? You know, when you need a service, what do you do? When you take on a new client or someone calls you for a quote or whatever, what is the process and what do you do? And if you begin to document that, and it doesn't have to be anything like from a technical writer or anything like that, but as you begin to document that process, every little bit helps. So when you get to the point that you do have to have some type of manual or you need a description of specifically what needs to be done to keep your business going, that's going to help you. If even if you're not in a process where you're getting ready to find a successor, but when you get to the point where you're growing and you're bringing on new staff, I know that, you know, I'm sure that Miss Stacy, she's probably got people, you know, working for her, working in her spa. And I'm sure she can speak to the fact that you've got to have some type of idea of what the duties and roles and responsibilities of the people that you're bringing on your team. But if you're just used to doing everything yourself and you hire somebody, you can have a little bit of chaos if you haven't begun to document what it is that you do. Does it have to be you? Is it time bound? All of these things are, it's not your succession plan, but it's steps so that when you're ready and the timing is right, you have some solid foundation to be able to build upon.
Yeah, and Jacqueline mentioned that she was reading Atomic Habits, which is a great read. There's also another read, Tiny Habits. So to Tylene's point, building these tiny habits, where you're not necessarily eating that elephant all in one sitting. You're breaking it up piece by piece. You might get a new piece every couple months or every whatever that time frame is for you to be comfortable and productive. But we want to make sure that the strategy is manageable and it's not overwhelming and lead us to paralysis by analysis.
And I want to make sure that we're being mindful of the time. I know you all mentioned that you want to take a break, and so just want to know how we're feeling. Do we want to take a quick break? I know we've had quite a few slides that had some things to think about. Maybe you want to take some time to jot down some notes. Ms. Cirilla, let us know if you'd like to take that break now or how you'd like to proceed.
Yeah, so Ali, do you want to just go ahead and take that break now and come back in about 10 minutes? That gives us
okay. Yeah. Restaurant get food. Let's take
you're breaking up a little bit. You're breaking up a little bit. We didn't hear you.
Sorry. I said yes. I said, if you don't mind, let's go ahead and take a quick break so people can, reset, get food, rest from whatever people need to do. We'll come back in 10 minutes.
Okay. So that will be at 7:50.
Yep.
All right.
All righty.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
All right. Appreciate the jams. Nice little break there. Hopefully everybody's back rejuvenated.
Hey, Geoffrey or Tylene, can you do me a favor? Can you check the participants to see if there's anyone waiting in to get in?
No, it doesn't look like anyone's waiting. I know that I let someone in just a moment ago.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
Absolutely.
It was me. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
You're welcome.
All right. We can start whenever you're ready.
All right. Well, so we're starting with rule number 1. We kind of already listed these out right before the break here, but we want to emphasize that the fact that this issue stems from a lack of education around available exit options. So we want to take a moment to review exit options coming up, but right now we want to just bring to light some statistics. So 10% of business say they don't ever plan to exit. We've kind of talked about this already, but that's interesting considering there's one statistic that we don't need to research to prove. Excuse me, tongue-tied. 100% of business owners will exit their business, either by design or by default. It's going to happen. So much of these feelings stem from the fact that business owners just aren't aware of all the available options and thus aren't preparing for the business or the planning towards them.
Anybody on the line, perhaps, maybe Miss Lambert or Miss Best Nervous, any ideas on, what, when you exit your business, if you had everything your way, how things might be or who might take it over, or what do you see?
So I have a couple of options. My business is willable, sellable. So either my daughter has expressed an interest in taking it over because she is also in financial services, or if I am not quite ready and I were to get sick and just need someone to handle the day-to-day and I still make money, and because it's a lot of my business is residual, I have someone in place to help my team still grow if I ever can't work, whether I'm sick or the kids are sick or whatever needs to happen in my life.
Excellent. And how did you get to that point? Was it something that, like, you know, did you just start off with that, or, you know, what was like kind of the catalyst for you to say, okay, this is what I want to have happen and this is how it's going to happen?
I know with Primerica, it is willable, sellable when you get to a certain level. So that I already knew. That is something that my leaders just expressed, that, hey, you have kids, like, let's make sure this is all set up because you do have kids that have health issues. So that was one of the things in the first 30 to 90 days. We sat down and we hashed that out real quick, because if something happens to me, my kids are, they're expensive. Just, yeah.
I know.
So,
I'm a parent too. Them kids,
so,
they stay in your pocket.
yeah, but I have adult kids and they're expensive. Their health expenses are at least $1 million a year.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So we sat down real quick and took care of that. So a lot of things now, I don't worry about that part. I just need to work.
Okay. Awesome. Well, congratulations to you for, you know, taking those steps forward in your business and being forward thinking and making sure that you have protected, you know, what you've began to invest in, what you've been building. So that's excellent. Anybody else have anything to share about, you know, either something that they have done to protect their business or document their plan, or something that they are going to do? Don't all speak at once. Don't be shy. We're all friends here.
This is Stacy. So I don't have my plan documented, but I do have, at least on my financial accounts, and as far as my business structure, like the next contact to be my husband if I'm unavailable to speak. So at least those wishes will be granted, but I still do need to plan out kind of what that succession would look like. I know a few options I would have, of course, is once my children are of age, if they want to take over the business, if it's an interest of theirs. But if not, I do plan on having a large enough team and individuals where we could talk about potential like ownership, and where at least there'll still be wealth within my family, where maybe they'll be, we'll still be owners as well.
Excellent. Excellent. That's
Yeah.
awesome. And I hope you wrote that on your, whatever your note sheet is, because that's the first step to making that happen is, you know, first it comes out your mouth, you write it down, and next thing you know, boom, it's happening. Did we have somebody else sharing something?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I myself, I don't have anything written down either. Never didn't really think about it, honestly. But then again, in a way I did, because I would always look at one of my kids and say, okay, this is the one. This is the one. So, but I, you know, that's just now, you know, she may change her mind. She's 20 right now, so who knows? But that's the extent of it. But you know, my business is entertainment, so it's highly collaborative, and I have to network with a lot of people. So I'm probably gonna have to really get out there and develop, you know, those relationships in that particular arena out here in Phoenix, and see who I can, you know, eventually build that with at some point. But yeah, I was definitely looking at my kids.
Awesome. That's excellent. That's excellent. And, you know, Mr. Shoulders made a great point there, especially like depending on what your industry is or what it is that you do. You know, it may or may not be as transferable, but when you have relationships and you leverage those relationships, then your family and future generations can still benefit from them. And again, it's about being creative in the approach and identifying how can this, you know, continue whatever it is that I'm doing, whether it be a residual action or whatever it is, how can it continue to build wealth and bring income to my family in perpetuity? So awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that with us, guys. If anybody else has anything, feel free to chime in.
I'll share. I don't have children, but what I'm working to do is, as a part of my succession plan, is I have the opportunity to connect and build relationships with young adults. So in part of my mentoring of them, if I've met a couple of young people already who want to do what I'm doing, have expressed that and want to have their own businesses in that. So if I could train them, and well, the plan is to train them and just see, you know, their seriousness of it. And if that works out, the plan would be to transfer it to one of them.
Awesome. That's starting early, you know, and that's the way it is. You develop those relationships and you get to know people, and you know, and that's definitely a very brilliant way to go about identifying a future successor. So that's awesome as well. You know, you're bringing value to those folks that you're taking under your wing, because regardless of whether or not they're going to be your successor, they're going to benefit as a result of your leadership and mentorship. So that's awesome. Awesome, awesome. So you want to know what your options are for exiting the business. And so these are 6 different ways. You've got private equity, employee stock ownership plans, a gift to a family member, selling to an outside buyer, you know, a buyout, or liquidate. So these are 6 ways you can exit the business. Some of the more common things we see is a gift to a family member or some sort of inside buyout. So what may happen is you might have somebody that's working in the business. I don't know, I keep hitting repeat on this little alarm that I set instead of stop. But anyway, you may have someone that's working in the business, taking on a management, leadership, or sales role. They may express interest in ownership. And so you might coordinate some sort of buyout. So that person may not have money today to pay you, you know, $2 million or whatever your business is valued at, but they may say, look, you can only pay me XYZ, or I'm going to take XYZ, and then you're going to take X% of the profit. Not they, but you may tell them that you're going to take X% of the profits until you get to whatever dollar. Whatever dollar amount. And so that could be, you know, a form of a buyout, you know, and then of course, liquidating it. And then, you know, many people who start businesses get approached by folks that want to just buy it. You know, a larger company might come along and just want to buy your business. So those are some of the more common ways that we see people exiting their business. But again, you know, the point today isn't, okay, choose 1 or 2 of those. It's just be aware of what some of the ways that people exit their business are, just being aware. Know what the value of your business is. So 2/3 of business owners say that they've had their businesses valued, but that's not really true. Okay. So, you know, in most cases, business owners are undervaluing their business, and these are the ways that they're identifying the value of their business. So either a CPA firm using a business valuation service, or themselves or their partners will do it. But for the most part, you know, people typically over or undervalue their businesses by at least 60%. And so any of these, you know, it's not that you know, the CPA is the only person, or a business valuation company is the only way to get it done, or doing it yourself is the only way. You just want to make sure, based upon your industry, that you're leveraging the proper resources to get an accurate account of what the value of your business is, because you got to have a value of your business to have an idea of, you know, if you're going to do a buy-sell agreement and say that, okay, the business is worth $2 million and there's two of us that own the business. So if something happens to me, then my family needs to get at least $1 million, right? Because I've built this business. Or it may say that if something happens to me, my family immediately needs to get $500,000. And then over the next, you know, XYZ years, they get the rest of it. So these are things to be aware of and why it's important to know the value of your business. So here are some reasons why business owners want to have a valuation. They want to have a way to determine how successful. Mr. Shoulders, you got your hand up?
Yeah, I don't know if you could tell. There's like a lag and a drag in the presentation. I don't know.
Oh.
Also, I did.
Okay.
How am I coming through? Can you hear me okay? Because you're coming through a little staticky.
Okay. I'm gonna set up a hotspot, and it might be my internet connection, but thank you for bringing that to my attention. But I can hear you okay.
Coming through fine for me.
What's that, Brother Ali?
I was just saying, you're coming through fine for me, Tyler. I don't know if anybody else is having audio issues. Sounds just fine.
So if you're on my end, make sure you can hear me.
I think your voice is kind of pulsing for me.
Yeah, it's choppy for me too, brother.
Yeah, so it's my end. But my question is, can you guys hear me enough where I can get my question out?
Yeah, I can.
So.
Okay. My question is, would it be more advantageous to liquidate the business at the end of it, or sell it, or would I make that determination then? And is that something I would plan?
So you would want to plan, and it's going to be up to what your goals are for the business. So if it's something that you feel, you know, you got sentimental value to, or whatever, you want to keep it going, you care about how it's run, right? Like, you know, it was created maybe a mission-driven business, and you want to make sure it stays mission-driven. So you want to kind of make sure you're selecting who the next owners are with care, you know. But sometimes, you know, the business was created to generate some wealth, and you built the business, and now you can make, you know, 5, 6, 7 times profit of what you put into it, and you sell it. But it's all going to be based on the individual business owner's goals. And so that's why it's really clear to have clarity around what those goals are, because that's going to determine whether or not you know, liquidate the business or what have you.
And I would say that that's the importance also of evaluating and reevaluating your plan as the years go by, as you know, revenue increases, you know, things of that nature. Those are all times when you want to revisit your plan and make sure that it's still working and it's still getting everything done and accounting for changes from year to year.
Excellent.
Thank you for that. Can you hear me now? Is it better?
It's still a little bit choppy, but I can hear you.
Okay, I'm gonna log back out and then come back in. So.
Okay, we'll keep a lookout for you.
Okay. Thanks for the answer. I got it. Thank you.
Okay.
Anytime.
So these are just a few reasons why business owners may want a business valuation. You know, maybe they're getting ready to sell it. They want to know if it's enough to fund their retirement. So it may be that they're planning to take some of the revenues from the company to fund their retirement, or it may be that they want to sell it and they may get a lump sum, and then they're going to be getting a certain amount monthly for the rest of their lives off the business. It just depends. But these are some of the reasons why businesses want to have a valuation. Here's why they need it. Sometimes you have multiple owners, so you got to know the value. We kind of talked about that a little bit earlier. Understanding how to fund your retirement. So if you don't know how much the business is worth, some people say my retirement plan is my business. Well, if you don't know how much the business is worth, or it's not properly documented in a way that you can sell it or get some revenue from it, if you're not there, then it's not your retirement plan. You know, and then also making sure that it's ready to sell. Oh, can you guys hear me? Am I breaking up?
You're fine. I just muted you, Jermaine, just so you're aware.
Okay. And if it's still not coming through, you want to drop it in the chat, that can work too. But these are just, you know, reasons why people want and need business valuation. Okay, excuse me. So select and prepare the right successor. So it's here, at least his kid is in the same, you know, still wants to build something. But you got the Beavers here, and he's saying, sorry, Dad, but my true passion is for making furniture, it's not dams, right? And so, you know, it's important that you're preparing the right successor. So 1 out of every 4 aren't even aware that it's them. So I think Jermaine mentioned, you know, one of his kids, he thinks is going to be a good, you know, a good contender to be able to carry on the business. But does that kid know that? And I mean, obviously it's a moot point right now because it's a kid, but you know, but in general, there are a lot of families that they may have identified somebody who's they feel like will take over the business, but they have not let that person know. So they don't even know that that's about to be them, or they think it's going to be them until it's the last minute. So they haven't had time to think about it, plan, prepare, or anything. 1 out of 3 business owners have not established a successor development plan. So how do you get this person who's supposed to come and take over everything that you've been learning and you've been doing over the last 20 years or 10 years or whatever? You've got to have some type of development plan to onboard people and make sure that they can be successful. Because again, it may take 2 or 3 people to do what it is that you're doing because you know the business more intimately than most other people will, especially if you are the sole proprietor. 1 out of every 2 business owners is reluctant to pass the baton. So some of them planning to pass it on, but they don't never actually do it. They're not keeping the youngins, you know, their youth or their, you know, next generation up to date with what's going on with the finances of the business, the operations, the plan, the budget planning, all of those things. So it's very important to engage those people who you want to be a part of that process, so that they can be aware of where things are. And it's not like they're starting a new job when you stop working and they got to figure it all out. So communication is very important, and being willing to delegate and hand off responsibilities, because either you do it, you know, willingly, or it's going to happen unwillingly. And, you know, better for you to explain how you want it to be done and be able to guide someone than to be in a position where you don't have any control over it and things are just happening. So again, it's all about that freedom of choice. So here are a couple things that we can do to help prepare a successor. So this might be helpful for the few of you all that mentioned, you know, potentially having some successors in mind. So having some clear guidelines on what they need to do so that they can be the leader that they need to be for your organization. Knowing what they need in the future, you know, just everybody's not going to come in the door ready to go, but having them to be clear on the areas that they're going to need to continue to refine and sharpen their tools so that they can be successful. Making sure there's an actual development plan. So they may start in one space and kind of rotate through different things, because maybe, you know, you're in a position where you're ready to establish and transfer things to a successor in the next 5 years, but you may have someone in branding and marketing and bookkeeping and all these different areas, but you still may want that person who's going to be your successor to get experience to those different elements of the business. In which case, you know, that's just an example of why you might need a successor development plan. get people up to speed. You want a smooth transition. And then coordinate the succession plan and successor development with family members and key managers. So again, this goes back to that communication point. It's great to have some ideas in your head, but if it's not communicated and it's not in writing, it's almost like it never happened. Encourage using a mentor. So a lot of times if you're looking at preparing a successor, you may be training them and they may be learning from you, but it may be helpful for them to have a mentor that's outside of you to help them with that transition, because everybody's not going to do things exactly the same. And you want to make sure that they feel confident that they're going to be able to continue your business on and be profitable and continue to grow. And then make sure that you spend some time working outside the business. And so a lot of times, we're only looking at the operations, the day-to-day of the business. Can you keep the dry cleaners running? Do you know how to service customers? But what about the operations of the business? What about the tax filing? What about any insurances or, things like that are needed, making sure that you're working outside of just the day-to-day operations, because the successor is likely going to be responsible for more than just the widgets or whatever that service may be that's being provided. So here is what a buy-sell agreement is. It's a legally binding agreement that requires one party to sell and another party to buy a particular ownership interest in a business in the event of a triggering event, such as death or disability of an owner. So we talked about this earlier. Let's just say Jeff and I own XYZ company. We're both 50-50, or likely in real life, it would probably be 51-49, because we know that there's some benefits to having women-owned businesses, right? So we own a business, and then, heaven forbid, something happens to me. That doesn't mean that Jeff wants to be in business with my husband, right? But if we don't put anything in, I own it, and it ends up going through probate, and that, and my husband ends up owning the other half of the business. Well, one, if we had a woman-owned business, that's going to be a problem, but anyway, so that's going to be an issue. And then, the second piece is maybe my spouse doesn't know anything about the business, doesn't want to be in the business, isn't concerned with the business, then what? And so when we look at having a buy-sell agreement, it's requiring one party to sell and another person to buy, right? And that's the triggering event. And so what happens is, if we have a buy-sell agreement in place and something happens to me, then that's a triggering event. And now that means that we have to have some sort of transfer of ownership, and there's funds involved. So if I've got typically people use a life insurance policy for the specific purpose of funding a buy-sell agreement in the event of, some sort of premature death or unexpected death. So that means that now my partner, Jeff, has, because of this buy-sell, he has to buy my family's ownership, that my part of ownership that has transferred to my family. He has to buy it. He has to buy that, and they have to sell it, because that's what that buy-sell agreement does. And typically a life insurance policy, which doesn't have to be super expensive, is what's going to provide the funds for that transaction. So this document usually says how much one business owner will pay the other's estate of their heirs for their share of the business, the method, the business valuation that will be used. So, our business might be continuously growing, and maybe it was valuated last time in 2018, and now it's 2020, and something happened to me. It may have to be evaluated again to make sure that the value at which we've set it is still relevant and meaningful. And then the source for funding, sometimes this could come from capital or from debt, within the business, but oftentimes it's most cost effective to use some form of life insurance policy to be able to fund that, because you don't want to take assets out of the business, especially if you have like one of the main people who operate the business to pass away, and now you, instead of having two people, you only have one person. you want to make sure that you have the funds you need to get the support that you might need, additional staff or what have you. And so you don't want to be strapped for cash because you had to pay out, you know, $500,000 or $1 million or whatever to settle up on whatever you committed to buy or sell. And then it also tells, obviously, you got to know who's eligible for payment, and then the definition of disability. So it's not always that we just passed away. Sometimes we might be, you know, disabled and we're not able to perform the duties of our job to keep the business going. And so there has to be something in place in that event as well. So any questions about what a buy-sell agreement is? I know that we're wrapping up, we're getting towards the end, but we want to make sure that if you have any questions that we can address them for you, that we go ahead and do that, because we want to make sure that you're ready to, you know, take some action on some of the things that you are currently thinking about and taking note of. And let's see, I haven't looked in the chat a little bit.
We're good there.
Okay, excellent. Red flags. You know, it's got to be the right, you know, the everything has to line up, right? So you have to make sure that whatever succession plan or whatever buy-sell agreement that you're putting in place, it's one that's in alignment with whatever that whatever the business entity type is. Making sure that you are establishing it based on the correct number of business owners. If we don't have an agreement, you know, it could be Sandy, Randy, and Shelly. They all think they own the business because they've been there since the beginning, but maybe only Randy and Shelly really own the business. So you got to be really clear about who the owners are, and you got to make sure whatever plan that you're creating is accurate based upon what the real facts are of the business. You have to be consistent. So when you're looking at disability, thinking about the 3 Ds as death, disability, divorce, departure, or disqualification. So all of those things are reasons why you might need to have a buy-sell agreement in place. You have to make sure that you agree upon what the definition of disabled is. Because some people might say, you know, oh, you know, I'm out, and maybe they aren't, you know, so you have to be clear about what the definition of disability is. Is it a loss of ability to do the daily functions of your job? Is it a loss also of that and of income? You have to be really clear in your documentation on that. And then also the agreement needs to be funded. So if it's not funded, that's a problem. And if it's not signed, it's pretty much didn't happen again. So I have seen people do fancy estate plans and pay all this money to have an estate plan done. But if it hasn't been executed and the assets have not been transferred, you don't have anything but a fancy estate plan. So again, it's being organized, it's being empowered with the information that's relevant to your situation, your business entity type, what you want to have happen with your business, and then taking the necessary action to make sure that it takes place. And all of this is benefited by documenting, which many of you may be doing right now, keeping good notes of what you want to do, what you want to accomplish, so that as you get ready to move forward more aggressively or with more rigor, then you can be able to have a checklist of things that you want to make sure that you review. So we're not going to go super deep into this. But essentially, you know, in this particular situation, we're looking at a buy-sell agreement that's funded by life insurance. And you've got this great agreement, you've got this great, you know, succession plan in place, but it wasn't signed. So if you don't, you know, if you don't sign the succession plan, then you know, it's basically just a fancy document. There's nothing to say that this person has to sell it to this person, or this person is going to remain you know, is going to be managing partner or whatever the case is. So it doesn't matter if you have it. If you don't sign it, it doesn't matter. It's not executed. Just like if I have a $2 million, if Jeff writes me a $2 million check today, You know, I'm like, yes, I got a $2 million check. Well, I can't do anything with it if he doesn't sign it. I can do absolutely nothing with that check if it's not signed. And that's very similar to some of these things that you have to put in place. We have to put in place for our growing businesses. Who are the resources for succession planning help? This is critically important, okay? Whoever's in business with you, definitely want them involved, okay? A lawyer, you know, Rocket Lawyer is good. I've got a little membership. I get some documents from Rocket Lawyer. But when we're talking about our business and our blood, sweat, and tears over the last several years, we want to make sure that we're communicating with somebody who is an expert and a specialist in the area of law, which we need them to be. And so you want to, you know, your accident attorney may not be the person to draw up your buy-sell agreement, right? I'm not saying it's not possible, but what I'm saying is we want to make sure that we're doing our due diligence when we're hiring a professional to take care of certain things for us, okay? You know, obviously you want to be engaged in that process. We would love to be a support to you. When we say ourselves or myself, you know, we could potentially be a support to you, you know, as financial professionals, and then your family members, because they need to know what's going on. It's great to go put a plan together and all that great stuff and even sign it, but if they don't know what's happening to your business, then that just means that you're not having a smooth transition, and you want the value of the business to be maintained. So you want to make sure that these people have some kind of way to know what you're doing as far as your plan goes. And you want to look at it every 3 years, just like your estate plan. I believe it's recommended we review our estate plans every 3 years. You want to review your succession plan every 3 years. So, you know, how do you choose a financial professional, right? We talk about this all the, you know, it's one of those things that in some communities, people, like, you call somebody and say, hey, you know, I'm able to help people with their financial planning. I can help you review your insurances and investments. You would think that you slapped them through the phone. Like, why did you call me with that? You know what I'm saying? Like, these are things that in other communities, it's a common thing that people have a financial advisor, they work with a financial professional. And so I think the most important thing that we can do as we're deciding who we want to work with and as we're building our team, because it's not always just one person, is we want to make sure that they have your best interest at heart. Anytime that you get with a financial services professional and they start trying to sell you a product before taking the time to get to know you, like, you as a financial services professional, I can't just look at somebody and say, oh, you know, you need XYZ. I need to do my due diligence to get to know that person so that I can recommend to them the products or services that are going to help them achieve their goals, are going to help them to address any gaps or overlaps in their planning. So you want to make sure whoever you're working with is going to have your best interest at heart. A good way to know whether or not they have your best interest at heart is, are they asking you questions? You should be getting asked so many questions that you wonder, well, why you need to know that? You know what I'm saying? They need to be asking you a ton of questions, because asking you a ton of questions is what will help the right financial professional to give you some information that's going to be good. So you're empowered with knowledge and information to make informed decisions. They're not telling you buy this or buy that right now, and they haven't gotten to know you or know what you really want or what your situation is. The next thing is you want to see them demonstrate high ethical standards. You know, ethics isn't something that, okay, well, I just do it when I'm at home, or I'm just ethical when I'm at school. You know, ethics is something across the board. So you want to make sure that you're paying attention to that with whoever you're working with. Also, it's helpful if they've had some experience. So if we're talking about your business planning needs, it's helpful if they've worked with business owners before. Because I think that many of you all who may have visited or worked with some technical assistance agencies, you may know that some of those people who work there have never been a small business owner before. So they don't get it, you know, and if they don't get it, they're not really may not be the best position to help you to achieve the goals you want to achieve. You know, if you work with a person, they've been reliable for a long time, you might be able to trust them for a referral or that's helpful just in knowing that there is whatever information you're getting or relationships you're building or project you're working on is going to be reliable. So sometimes it may be like your attorney or your CPA, they may recommend somebody to you because you've worked with them for a long time and you trust their judgment because they've steered you this far without having any trouble. And then you want to make sure they're responsive, right? Nobody wants to work with somebody that's going to take them 2 or 3 weeks to get back with them. So you want to make sure that they communicate with you in a timely fashion. About 18% of folks have spoke to someone that they consider to be an expert in exit planning. So that's number 5. Make sure that you're reviewing that plan and that you are seeking financial advice from somebody that you trust, that's knowledgeable, that has high ethical standards. Any questions about that?
How do you suggest we go about finding a good financial planner or something like that?
On
budget, especially on budget.
Shameless plug, but that is what Geoffrey and I do. But again, it is all about fit. But you can interview people. So usually you can, get some recommendations from a CPA or a bookkeeper, somebody that you work with that's in that profession. Sometimes your estate planning or business attorney may be able to recommend a financial professional. And then you just meet with them and you see what they say. When you sit down with them, are they telling you, oh, buy this or buy that? Or are they asking you, oh, so what do you want to accomplish? What are you doing? What's important to you? Who's important to you? So that's really the way that you're going to find a financial professional. Most times it's going to come through some sort of referral. And then oftentimes we get new clients as a result of relationships we build in these types of environments. But you just want to make sure that you do your due diligence in vetting, somebody that, let's just say you go on the internet, because people find me on the internet sometimes. Sometimes people are just, they want somebody who looks like them. And so they go to my firm and they see a face that looks like theirs and they call me, right? But it's also a good idea. You can do broker checks, you can Google people, get some, you can ask them for referrals or for references. And so those are some ways, but again, Geoffrey and I would be happy to offer anybody here, a consultation, a free, brief consultation to see if we might be a good fit. And if not, we're always going to be willing to try to connect you with somebody who may be a good fit.
That was going to be my next question. Do you guys give consultations? I wasn't going to say free because I didn't want you to think I was a bum, but I was going to say, I was going to ask if you guys gave consultations. So
we do it, and we'll have contact information up for you all.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
But thanks for asking, and we'll look forward to hearing from you. Just remember that your succession plan needs to be written, and it needs to consider what the day-to-day is for that business owner, just in case of some sort of voluntary or involuntary step down from their leadership or ownership role in the business. Then also remember these golden rules of succession planning. Know the options, know the value of your vehicle, make sure that you select and prepare and groom the right successor. You want to make sure things are in writing, and then you want to review that plan at least every 3 years. So those are just kind of some of the top things. But again, if anybody has taken some notes today, I hope you've taken some notes today. You took any kind of notes today, you're on your way. If you wrote down what those goals are, if you wrote down information about the finances, things you need to consider as far as maybe you don't know every single thing you need to do to run your business successfully. You just do it, right? But you just start breaking it down into little pieces, make sure I'm reaching out to my customers in a timely fashion, whatever those things may be, you begin to build it, and it's one step at a time. So I know we're a little bit beyond our time. We thank you for your your time. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Did anybody learn something today? Like, did we feel like this was a good a good use of time? You know, any questions, comments, concerns, insults? We want to hear from you. Don't be shy.
Insults. Right.
No insults.
No
That's a joke.
insults whatsoever. You guys did a great job, and we're just thankful that you did this for us, because I mean, one of the things I do as a part of my consulting work, at least when I have my initial, because people are starting their business, I already start to have those conversations with them as they're starting their business about thinking about, you know, their future and who would take over. I make sure that I do start those conversations with them. So you gave me more information to share with them. So thank you.
Awesome. You're very welcome.
All right, so I took some notes, and what I wrote down was the top 3 things for a business owner to get organized and clear about what you want to happen. Get educated, and I wrote in my field, in my particular area, get educated and start networking. And number 3 is take action. So I'm going to sit down and take a look at myself and my business and decide, you know, how to move. So I thank you for that.
Awesome. Awesome. Excellent.
All right.
All right.
Well,
take us home, Jeff. Take us home.
Yeah, I appreciate everybody joining and listening to our information. The contact information to reach me and Tylene is, you know, through this number here. It'll get to both of us. So thank you for joining. You know, connect with us on LinkedIn or Facebook, whatever's clever. We want to stay connected, and we regularly share, you know, tidbits of information and nuggets, as I like to call it, to kind of help us to build those tiny habits that turn into atomic habits.
Thank you both again. If there were any other outline questions, feel free to drop them in the chat or raise a hand. But we also have Geoffrey and Tylene's contact info now. So as I said, feel free to reach out to them directly. I want to thank you again tremendously for, thank you again tremendously for everything that was shared. Hopefully it was beneficial to everyone. I know it was for me, as I'm thinking about, you know, future of the businesses that we're building and how do we successfully transition. So it's just a lot to think about, but necessary things to think about. So thank you again. Just a couple of housekeeping items, and Jackie Tarika's helped me keep me honest on if I'm missing anything. So we have the mixer next Tuesday on the 27th, I believe it is. We'll be having another mixer for the Be Ready program. So we are excited to have everybody out to meet in person, so we can continue to network, build relationships, hear about each other's businesses, learn how we can support each other, all those things. So stay tuned for the invite and the save the date and all those things. That'll be coming shortly. As always, feel free to take advantage of one-on-one coaching, co-working sessions, co-working space, and the hub at Grassroots Bookstore. If that is of interest or a need, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to answer any questions or get you scheduled for anything there. I think that is everything. Is there anything else that we need to cover? Jackie, Saria, Rikas, anybody?
I think that's about it.
That's it. Okay. We're still looking for more people, obviously, for the Be Ready program. So if you know anyone that you feel would benefit from this program, anyone that has a business, please shoot them our way, or you could just shoot us their contact information. We'll happily reach out to them. But without carrying on any longer, thank you all again. Thank you, Geoffrey. Thank you, Tylene, so much for everything that you shared, everything that you're doing. Such an important mission that you have, and we appreciate you both for stepping out and doing it, and continue putting work in. And so we are sending positive energy and peace and blessings your way. and praying for a successful billion-dollar business for you, and all the work that you do for the community. Thank you all again, and have a good night.
Thank you both. Thank you everybody for coming on.
Thank you. Have a good night.